Over the years, discussions about school corporal punishment have revealed a wide variety of attitudes among those who experienced it. One observation that frequently emerges is that many women who received corporal punishment at school appear willing to acknowledge that they deserved it. Whether this reflects a broader trend or merely the experiences of a particular group is impossible to determine with certainty, but it is a viewpoint that arises often enough to be noteworthy. However, not everyone's experiences point in the same direction. Some people have encountered women whose recollections of school corporal punishment are overwhelmingly negative. In one instance, 3 women who had been caned at school spoke about their experiences. 2 of them clearly resented the punishments they received, while the third appeared more accepting of what had happened. Although such a small sample cannot be considered representative, it illustrates that reactions to corporal punishment were far from uniform. Many discussions on the subject occur entirely by chance. The topic may arise during conversations about education, childhood memories, or local history. In these informal settings, people often speak candidly about experiences they have not discussed for years. Some women readily admit that they deserved the punishment they received, arguing that it taught them valuable lessons and discouraged them from repeating the behavior that led to the punishment in the first place. Others maintain that the discipline they received contributed to the development of personal responsibility and respect for authority. At the same time, there are many who take a very different view. Some remember corporal punishment as unfair, excessive, or humiliating. Their objections are not always directed solely at the punishment itself, but at the circumstances surrounding it. In some cases, resentment stems from a belief that they were punished unjustly. In others, it reflects dissatisfaction with the severity of the punishment compared with the offence committed. One woman, for example, recalled being caned for arriving late to class despite the delay having been caused by circumstances beyond her control. Unsurprisingly, she viewed the punishment as deeply unfair. Most people would likely resent any form of disciplinary action in such circumstances, whether it involved corporal punishment or a lesser sanction. Another woman described being caned for tracing over a name that had previously been carved into a desk. While she accepted that some form of punishment may have been justified, she regarded the caning itself as disproportionate to the offence. The experience left her with a lasting sense of resentment towards teachers and school authorities, whom she felt possessed excessive discretion in determining punishments. These examples highlight an important distinction. When people express resentment towards corporal punishment, it is not always clear whether they object to the physical punishment itself or to the fact that they were punished at all. A person who believes they were treated unfairly may have reacted negatively, regardless of whether the punishment had been detention, suspension, or caning. Conversely, those who acknowledge that they deserve punishment often do not distinguish strongly between corporal punishment and other disciplinary measures. Their acceptance generally stems from a belief that they had committed an offence warranting consequences. From this perspective, the punishment is viewed as a legitimate response to misconduct rather than an injustice. Personal experiences often shape these attitudes. Some individuals look back and conclude that they were treated fairly, even if the punishment was unpleasant. Others admit that they escaped punishment on many occasions, and only rarely felt that disciplinary action was unjustified. Such reflections can influence how they assess corporal punishment later in life. One former pupil recalled receiving the cane for truancy. She and another girl received 3 strokes across their bare hands, while boys involved in the same offence were punished across the seat of their trousers. At the time, she regarded the difference as unfair, believing that the boys had received greater protection. Later experience led her to conclude that the distinction was less significant than she had originally imagined, but the incident remained one of the few occasions on which she questioned the fairness of a punishment. Another disciplinary incident initially appeared likely to result in a severe punishment. Although she believed the announced penalty was excessive, the eventual outcome proved less harsh than expected. Importantly, she trusted the senior member of staff responsible for imposing discipline and believed that decisions were generally made fairly. Even when she disagreed with an assessment of an offence, she was prepared to accept that school authorities might view matters differently. Such experiences suggest that perceptions of fairness often play a greater role in shaping attitudes than the punishment itself. A punishment viewed as deserved is more likely to be accepted, even years later. By contrast, a punishment regarded as arbitrary or excessive can leave lasting resentment. The broader question of whether corporal punishment was effective remains open to debate. Some argue that it served as a powerful deterrent, particularly for otherwise well-behaved pupils who wished to avoid the embarrassment and pain associated with it. Others contend that it was repeatedly administered to a relatively small group of habitual offenders for whom it had lost much of its deterrent value, while continuing to generate fear among pupils who rarely misbehaved. What emerges most clearly from personal accounts is that there is no single female perspective on school corporal punishment. While women often appear more critical of the practice than men when discussing it in general terms, there are also many who believe they deserved the punishments they received, and who view those experiences as having had positive effects on their behaviour. Equally, there are others who continue to regard such punishments as unfair, excessive, or counterproductive. The notion that girls universally resented corporal punishment and would always have preferred alternative forms of discipline does not stand up well against the diversity of personal experiences. Some certainly did resent it, particularly when they believed it had been imposed unjustly. Others accepted it as a deserved consequence of their actions. As with many aspects of educational history, individual experiences varied greatly, and any attempt to generalize risks oversimplifying a far more complex reality.